Just when we thought our wild heroes could be domesticated behind the walls of Alexandria, the wolves and the saviors step up to the plate and pitch a wrench right into the gears. Luckily for us, that means loads of intricate set pieces, steamy romances, and behind-the-scenes switch-ups to break down. I'm Kyle with Cinematica, and today we're taking a swing at the hit show's most controversial year yet. Here are 107 facts about The Walking Dead Season 6. Batter up. Season 6 aired 16 episodes from October 11th, 2015 to April 3rd, 2016, the 68th through 83rd episodes of the whole series. Most of the season is adapted from the 14th volume of the graphic novel, titled No Way Out, through the first half of Volume 17, titled Something to Fear. It's the first season not to feature an episode written by series creator Robert Kirkman. Before 6, he wrote or co-wrote at least one episode per season. Aw, the show's finally leaving the nest. According to the cast and crew, there's more comedy in this season than there's ever been. Then again, with the places this season starts to go, there's more of a need for it than ever. There's also more walkers than ever. One day on set brought 300 undead extras, the most the show has ever used at once. For the first time beginning this season, the show is using digital augmentation to help with the zombification process. This new tool allows the effects teams to get rid of noses or shrink rib cages, adjustments that aren't possible with prosthetics alone. Though the zombies get more and more decayed each season, showrunner Scott Gimple has stated that he isn't interested in making them completely skeletal. They've always got to be putting some muscle into it. For the new full-time cast, fake characters are created for the casting process. This is to avoid spoilers, but it also means that no one knows who they're playing. For example, Corey Hawkins joined the cast as Heath, but his casting call was for Delvin. Some of the casting, though, is all in the family. Sonequa Martin Green's husband, KENRIC Green, came on as Alexandrian Scott. Meanwhile, the returning cast just needed to get back into character. Norman Reedus got back into character this season with Coffee, Motorhead, and Candy Crush. Apparently, he's dropped hundreds of dollars on Candy Crush. Badass, Daryl. Maybe he should be spending that money on Coffee, though, because Reedus once showed up late to set. He wouldn't be the only one to do that this season, but more on that later. Shooting had to begin without him, so they dressed up a crew member in his wardrobe to stand in. When Reedus arrived, he stripped down and demanded his costume back.
And I ran up and got naked, and I was like, bring that bike back here.
In celebration of the season premiere, a panel was held at Madison Square Garden in New York. The cast all attended in black tie fashion, a far cry from the gutsy get-ups this season. Even old cast members made appearances. Lennie James finally returned as Morgan and a series regular. Creator Robert Kirkman has noted that Morgan is very different and cooler than his counterpart in the comic books, and that it will re-energize the already energized show. When Rick asks Morgan who taught him how to use a staff, Morgan stays quiet. Rick retorts with a callback to episode 1. I ask, you answer. Common courtesy, isn't it? Morgan said the same thing to Rick when interrogating him about his wound. Keep an eye on Rick's beard. It's a barometer for how crazy he's feeling. Shaving it at the end of season 5 was an indicator that he was ready to be domesticated, but by the end of season 6, we can see its triumphant return. While Andrew Lincoln may be safe from walker bites, it doesn't mean he's safe from tick bites. While shooting the premiere, Lincoln got 5 ticks in just 1 week. You know what they say, a tick a day keeps the walkers away. Don't listen to that, I'm not a doctor. The first of the show's controversial fake-outs came with Glenn's quote-unquote death in the episode Thank You. From the moment it aired, critics and viewers were unconvinced that Glenn was actually killed off, and were mad at the show for even trying to dupe them in that way. This led to some critically low reception during numerous episodes in the first half of the season. As of Here's Not Here, Steven Yeun's name was removed from the opening credits. This was likely done to further sell his fake-out death from the previous episode. Photos eventually surfaced of Steven Yeun in costume on set, not to mention he had just renegotiated his contract. So yeah, even walkers could tell that he wasn't going anywhere. While leaks such as these can be reassuring, they also suck for people trying to avoid spoilers. To try to prevent drones from sneaking shots, the production will often try to cover up key actors. Clothes, injuries, or whole people can be evidence of plot points to come. Here's Not Here is the second episode in the show's history to feature just one main cast member, focusing entirely on Morgan Morgan. The first episode to do this was Live Bait, which was all about the governor. The episode was shot out of order with the rest of the season. Even though it's the 4th episode aired, it was the 9th episode shot, following even the mid-season finale. Besides Greg Nicotero and Scott Gimple, no one saw the episode 4 script until it was time to film it. This secrecy led to speculation amongst the cast about what the episode was. See, even the cast spends time speculating. Gimple actually wrote the script while at Comic-Con in 2015. He even mentioned writing a long flashback script in the Walking Dead panel. Sadly, writing it limited the time he could spend at the convention. The episode was shot a ways away from the show's normal locations. Lennie James and John Carroll Lynch, who played Eastman, were the only familiar faces in the area. Their housings weren't far from one another either, which gave them bonding time during production. Eastman's shirt says, "Save Terrapins," which fans took as a connection to Enid eating a terrapin just a few episodes earlier. It's a subtle nod that Eastman is the Order in an orderless universe. Scott Gimple shot down the theory, but even Caitlin Nacon freaked out when she saw the shirt. It may, however, be a reference to the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. After all, Eastman is named after the creator of the series, Kevin Eastman. Lennie James has noted that guest animal Tabitha is, quote, startlingly attractive for a goat.
Something strangely attractive about it. It's an attractive goat.
John Carroll Lynch agrees, and according to him, this isn't his first goat rodeo. When Morgan arrives at Father Gabriel's church in Coda, he puts a rabbit's foot, a pack of goo-goo clusters, and a bullet at the altar. And Here's Not Here, we finally learn where those items came from. Here's Not Here aired in a 90-minute time slot, making it the first extended episode that's not also a premiere or finale. Without commercials, it runs at 64 minutes. The 2 walkers that Maggie and Aaron encounter in the episode now are no random extras. They're former Alexandrians who were exiled, trying to make their return, played by random extras. Greg Nicotero has also said that one of the walkers was a homeless guy who lived and died down there. The unfurling of the sewer walkers from the ground was inspired by Ridley Scott's Alien. I thought this was a zombie show. Apparently, it's also a Swamp Thing show too. In Always Accountable, one of the walkers is designed after the DC turned Wes Craven monster. Sasha's line, "Self-awareness is a beautiful thing," is a callback to her former flame. Bob said the same thing to her back in Alone, and now she's imparting that knowledge to Abraham. Norman Reedus' motorcycle stunt double is the son of stunt coordinator Monty Simons. Reedus doesn't like him though, because he thinks he's a better looking Daryl than Daryl. The walker with the Cherokee Rose growing out of it is an homage to the episode Cherokee Rose. Greg Nicotero dropped the Easter egg in there as a callback to the Daryl Carroll moment from season 2. What exactly does this bit of symbolism mean? Well, we don't have all the answers. Let us know in the comment section what you think. At the time of airing, there was rampant speculation that the voice on the walkie-talkie at the end of episode 6 was actually Glenn. It turned out to be Eugene, which is usually a disappointment.
You try one of these, they're chewy.
The teaser at the beginning of episode 8 is one of Andrew Lincoln's favorites of the whole show. He enjoys how crazy and weird it was to follow the ants. Tova Felshew and Andrew Lincoln shot multiple takes of Deanna's death scene, each with varying emotions. The show went with the most reserved take, but Felshew prefers the emotional ones. Lincoln has said that the emotional ones may have been more Andrew missing Tova than Rick missing Deanna. Felshew tried to pitch plot lines for Deanna that could keep her on the show. One of them included becoming an ambassador to other survivor communities, with Rick as her muscle. Another revealed that her blood is the cure for the outbreak. It's a shocker they didn't go with that one. When Rick gutted the walkers to get the viscera for his disguise, he was channeling another horror movie, Jaws. He fancies himself like Dreyfus, cutting into the shark, and yes, I said fancies because Andrew Lincoln is British. Start to Finish was directed by Michael Satrazemis. His wife actually plays a walker in the episode too, which must have been a fun and possibly traumatic event for Michael. The episode is a post-credits scene that sets up the big bad guy for the second half of the season.
Your property now belongs to Negan.
In the sequence, Daryl, Sasha, and Abraham come face to face with a gang of bikers who serve Negan. The scene was later played on its own as a prologue closer to the premiere of Season 6B. The phrase that Negan's men use, right off the bat, is carefully selected foreshadowing. Jesus later says that the Hilltop was told the same thing before Negan beat one of the residents to death. Little did they know that the bat is very gruesomely literal. Oh, that is some tasty foreshadowing. "Sit down before you fall down" is becoming Morgan's catchphrase. He says it to Carol in Start to Finish, and has previously said it to Rick in the series premiere and Eastman in Here's Not Here. The 4 mini-mates in Sam's room are from Robert Kirkman's other comic series, Invincible. Those figures were actually Comic-Con exclusives too. When Alexandra Breckenridge was first cast as Jessie, the producers told her that she shouldn't read the comic books because the show often deviates from them. But in the case of her death, they didn't. She suspects that was why they didn't want her reading them. The quick cuts of Rick reminiscing about happy moments with Jessie was Scott Gimple's idea. It was part reminder of the life he could have had and part homage to a style of filmmaking from the 1970s. Scott Gimple cryptically wouldn't let Chandler Riggs cut his hair. Turns out that this was in preparation for him to lose his eyeball. The long hair helps the bandages blend into part of Carl's face. One of the changes from book to screen was how Carl loses his eye. In the comics, Douglas Monroe accidentally fires off his gun as he's being eaten by zombies and the stray bullet hits Carl. In the show, Ron shoots it out after tension between the two characters built up all season. Robert Kirkman actually thinks the show's execution was cooler because it had more conflict. According to Chandler Riggs, Carl was supposed to jump in front of Rick and take the bullet for him. It was that way in the script, and they even shot it like that. However, they changed the scene in editing to make it look more like an accident. Even now, Chandler Riggs' favorite episode of The Walking Dead is No Way Out. He gets chills watching it even though he was there to see it. Well, partially. The episode shares its name with Volume 14 of the comic. Carl losing his eye and the Andersons' demise are both part of the same volume. Ever wonder how the characters have survived this long without any serious injuries? Well, so has Andrew Lincoln. He's approached Scott Gimple and Greg Nicotero about getting him some visible facial scars. Unfortunately, scars take too much time to make. The leader of the Wolves never actually gets a name. However, Scott Gimple wrote out a whole backstory for him, along with several different names. At one point, it was Owen. Several scenes were cut out of the episode due to time constraints. However, as luck would have it, they ended up ahead of schedule. The scene with Carol and Morgan in the townhouse is one that was omitted but later shot. This episode establishes that walkers are drawn to fire, a behavior that's ironically opposite to normal monster movie conventions. Typically, fire is what keeps beasts away. The plot for the next world was concocted by Andrew Lincoln, Norman Reedus, and Greg Nicotero over Indian food. They were riffing about a Butch and Sundance episode where the two guys could just hang out. They pitched the idea to Scott Gimple, and he figured out a spot in the storyline that it actually fit nicely into. To prepare for the episode, Lincoln and Reedus actually hung out and watched Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. They even texted Robert Redford to let him know that they were watching it. Robert Kirkman compared the episode to Lethal Weapon, stating that it's the most fun episode they've ever had. What? Fun? On The Walking Dead? Enjoy it while it lasts. Despite being the funniest episode, there was still danger behind the scenes. Norman Reedus cut his finger on the glass of a vending machine while reaching into it. Yeah, you'll walk around with guns and machetes all day, but it's the vending machine that'll get you. The next world introduces the prominent comic book character Jesus. His real name in the comics is Paul Monroe, but for the show, they changed it to Paul Rovia. This is likely because they already had a Monroe family recently and didn't want him to get mixed up with them. Tom Paine plays Jesus, and it didn't take him long to get into character, literally. Paine became Jesus in the span of a week. He auditioned, was cast, and flew to Atlanta to film in just a few days. In the comics, Jesus is gay. Kirkman has said, though, that he wants Jesus' homosexuality to be as prominent as the other characters' heterosexuality, namely, not very. His sexuality on the show, though, wouldn't be confirmed until season 7. This makes Jesus one of a handful of gay characters on the show, although some argue that the numbers are dwindling, so we're rooting for you, Jesus. Carl can be seen reading an issue of Kirkman's comic, Invincible, with Enid. We've seen him with it in earlier episodes as well, after Michonne gave him a whole stack. In the uncut version of the episode, Rick drops an F-bomb. When Daryl asks him if Jesus is one of the people worth saving.
I like this guy. Now this guy.
This is the third F-bomb dropped on the show so far, none of which have been televised. The other two belong to Rick and Daryl.
With the wrong people.
That is, until the finale.
But swallow it, you most certainly motherfucking will.
Even though Rick's romance with Jessie was cut short, it still made an impact on him. The relationship opened Rick back up to his gushy romantic side, which allowed him to see the life he could have with Michonne. DANAI GURIRA knew about Michonne before Andrew Lincoln did. He caught wind, though, when he noticed that she was acting weird and shy around him. She told him to go finish the script for episode 10, and when he did, he literally screamed. Then he ran to her trailer so they could freak out together. Scott Gimple was shipping Michonne long before he was even showrunner. showrunner. One of his goals, beginning in season 4, was to guide the two characters to a place of companionship and trust so that a romance would occur naturally. A lot of discussion went into Michonne and Rick's sleeping positions. They needed to strike the right balance of intimacy, power, and partnership between them while also keeping it natural. Speaking of natural, those au naturel fighting stances weren't in the original script. Michonne was actually supposed to cover herself up with a sheet. However, DANAI and Andrew decided that neither of them would be bashful in the presence of a stranger, and instead went for their weapons. When asking Glenn if he and Maggie were trying to get pregnant, Abraham says,
When you were pouring the Bisquick, you trying to make pancakes?
Well, fans heard that line and immediately turned it into a meme. This prompted Michael Cudlitz to start the Bisquick Challenge, where he encouraged fans to bring in boxes of Bisquick that would go to local charity. General Mills and Betty Crocker must be fans too, because they donated 1,000 boxes of Bisquick. And good thing we're not talking about babies. The Barrington House in Hilltop wasn't just a shooting location. The crew built it from the ground up over the course of 13 weeks. Yes, they went and built a real house. Ironically, the Barrington House is a real place in North Carolina. The buildings even look architecturally similar. It's a great spot for your Walking Dead themed wedding. Because the Hilltop colony was built entirely from scratch, it closely resembles the way it's depicted in the comics. People on set even got emotional seeing it because it was such a perfect likeness. Xander Berkeley, who plays Hilltop colony leader Gregory, has a history of playing slick, treacherous characters. In fact, he's even told Scott Gimple that he hopes that his daughters can one day see him play something who's not like that. Sorry, Mr. Berkeley, maybe one day. Ethan, the Hilltop colonist who stabs Gregory, is played by MMA fighter Justin Kuslin. Andrew Lincoln joked that Kuslin is not only a trained fighter but twice his size, which added to the comedy of the scene. Not Tomorrow Yet is Alana Masterson's last appearance of season 6. She left on maternity leave and wouldn't be back until the season 7 episode Swear. Even in this episode, she was 9 months pregnant. At the Savior's Outpost, Glenn finds a wall with Polaroids of people's skulls bashed in. This is more foreshadowing to Negan's smashing debut at the end of the season, which Glenn may or may not be at the receiving end of. One of the Polaroids on Negan's victim wall appears to be Big Tiny, one of the inmates from season 3. He was killed by Tomas though, so this is more of an Easter egg than a plot connection. Speaking of familiar faces, there are some cameos hidden in the lineup of Gregory lookalikes. One of them actually is a Gregory. It's episode director and special effects artist Greg Nicotero. The other is Johnny Depp. The Savior's Satellite Outpost used to be a functioning building. When the location scouts found it, Scott Gimple liked it so much that they designed the episode around its layout. The Walking Dead loves to reference other horror movies, and there's a big one in the same boat. Carol and Maggie are being held prisoner in the same room that's in the first Saw. Most actors join the cast of the show after getting a call from their agent. Alicia Witt realized she'd be joining as Paula when Scott Gimple started following her on Twitter. Getting down with your dead self is one of the most fun parts of getting killed on The Walking Dead. Sadly, Alicia Witt didn't get to play Undead Paula. The faceless makeup took too long to apply, so they had to dress someone else up as her while she shot her scenes. The rig that the special effects team used to impale a walker is called a Steve Martin rig. It's named after the comedian's old arrow through the head bit, and it works the same way. The pole device is a U-shaped belt that sits around the walker's chest. Denise's death is actually a hand-me-down of Abraham's death in the comics. Like him, she is in the middle of a monologue when she's shot and continues to speak. In the comics, she's bit by a zombie and euthanized by Michonne. The orange backpack that Daryl has in Twice as Far is the same one Rick took from the hitchhiker in Clear. That backpack has popped up numerous times since that episode. It's used by Carl in Isolation, by Glenn in Inmates, and was temporarily taken by Terminus and then stolen by the Hunters in A. East was originally titled The Calm Before. This not only references the impending Negan storm next episode, but also Volume 7 of the comic. However, Volume 7 has nothing to do with the storyline, which may have contributed to the change. The pistol that Carl finds has a carving of a bat strung up with barbed wire. This is foreshadowing of Negan's bat, Lucille, who would finally make its debut next episode. Norman Reedus doesn't seem like the emotional type, but he was getting very teary-eyed during a scene with Glenn in East. Since he and Steven Yeun have known each other for so long, it's easier for them to act off each other. In one take, when Yeun said, "Come back home," it hit Reedus in just the right spot to get him weepy. Various places listed the title of the finale as Something to Fear before it was changed to Last Day on Earth. Had it not changed, it would share a title with Volume 17 of the graphic novel, which covers the same plot. When the finale aired, it was the first 90-minute episode of the show, following Days Gone By, What Lies Ahead, Conquer, First Time Again, and Here's Not Here. That also makes it the third this season, more than any other before it. The Viscasil Public Library in the finale is an allusion to the Academy Award-winning artist Joe Viscasil. He's legendary for his work on such Hollywood spectacles as Star Wars, Terminator, and Independence Day. He passed away in 2014, so Greg Nicotero included the tribute to him. One of the big promises of the season was that it would end with a major game changer. This turned out to be the introduction of Negan, who Robert Kirkman described as an atomic bomb. An uncut version of Negan's entrance is available on the Season 6 Blu-rays, and it's a bomb alright, an F-bomb. There are 23 uses of the word in total, bumping the show total up from 3 to 26. Members of the cast were quoted as having extreme reactions to the finale. Andrew Lincoln said it made him feel sick and that he couldn't sleep, resulting in him being late to set for the first time ever. Lauren Cohen described the experience as raw and that she didn't even want to go to work that day. Jeffrey Dean Morgan was cast as the lovably brutal Negan. When he first got the call from his agent, he was told that he'd been offered the role of a major Walking Dead villain. Morgan, a fan of the series, crossed his fingers and asked what the villain's name was, hoping that it would, in fact, be Negan. Since he was still working on The Good Wife, Morgan had to find 2 days that he could head to set, and those came just 3 days later. That meant that he had to learn the emotional, dramatic 12-page monologue in less than a week. Here's a crazy change from the comics. Negan has a beard. Yes, Morgan's role on The Good Wife required him to be fuzzy, so when he flew south to shoot the scene, he had to keep his beard. That's also how the line about shaving ended up in there. The cast took a vow of silence about the deaths in the finale. Andrew Lincoln compared it to the Mafia's Omerta. For them, it's not just a character dying or a job ending, it's losing a friend. So it's pretty painful to talk about. Despite the gut-wrenching intensity of the scene, Andrew Lincoln said it was the greatest sense of unity he felt amongst the cast and crew since season 1. The atmosphere was exciting for everyone involved, all whom wanted to get the audience on the edge of their seats and then smack them with a bat. Many fans were not happy with the cliffhanger ending, especially considering the hype going into the finale. Greg Nicotero tried to level with fans, asking them to trust that it's in the best interest of the story and that the payoff would be worth the wait. The entire season only takes place over the course of about 51 days, and about 30 of them are time skipped. Many episodes are set concurrently or just later on the same day. All said, the death toll of the season is about 90. That makes it the second most lethal season after season 4. Once again, I'm Kyle, and thanks for watching 107 Facts About The Walking Dead Season 6. Who's your character from the 6th season? Who do you hope comes back? Comment below and let us know. Don't forget to click the bell icon to become part of the notification squad, and subscribe to Cinematica, where we help you watch smarter.